chicken business, the importation of chicken, smuggled chicken, big business. This is the only country on earth you gamble on smuggling chicken. You got government vehicles fetching ganja and marijuana. And this is not seized product. This is ship involving what does the law says? Trafficking. Government vehicle with sirens on them. So when you see a siren coming by, you thinking it's emergency, is somebody sick, is some official on a state business. It might be all of that. It might be all of that. Official smuggling business. This is big business. So number one, we're still on GMC. GMC says discrepancies, chicken and eggs, big business. It identified who is at the center of this. While the Ministry of Agriculture, Q Zulfi, wants to bury his head in the sand. Now you got corruption. They don't want to admit you got chicken shortage and they got to import. Because, of course, it goes to what they've been saying. Oh, they're doing all of this work in the poultry sector, in the agriculture sector. They've been doing all this work. And then they've been bringing in the giant black chicken and they doing this and that. But all their efforts, if there are any meaningful efforts, seem to be falling flat. Listen to what the vice president said a couple press conferences ago on the giant black birds and the cash grants that they're giving out to try to stimulate the sector. But yet they claim the sector is doing so well. But folks on the ground know chicken being smuggled wantonly in this country. And that is some of what this audit by the Marketing Corporation is picking up on. But of course, we're heading into election season, so we can't have any of this. So you see, the ministry is trying to bury this issue now. I'm privileged to have the MP Jordan join us this morning. MP, welcome. You've been following this issue here at the GMC. It's building to a climax now with differing statements coming out of the Marketing Corporation and the ministry. And also you've been following what has been happening at the Myconia Barry Agricultural Development Authority. Talk to us about these issues. Let's start with the GMC. Vinceroy smuggled chicken, eggs. What thing in this country? Same old PPP?
All right. Good morning to you, Shara, and good morning to your listening and viewing audience. And thank you very much for having me this morning. And Shara, I want to begin by saying that it is nothing new. It is just that with the advent of technology and social media, that we are able to now highlight and properly bring these things to fore so that people could see and the public could be made aware. And the statement by the the ministry directly on the new GMC goes to show that there is no proper coordination between the ministry and that agency. Apart from the coordination, it goes to show the constant cover-up that the Minister of Agriculture is oftentimes involved in, so as to not let the public properly get the real issue, the meat of the matter, as we would normally say. Because we know from the opposition that there is corruption at New GMC.
Correct.
The manager at New GMC knows that there is corruption. As a matter of fact, her statement is not one that many are surprised with. But I firmly believe that she wants to stand on the side and corner of truth. And so the woman in her professional manner or wanting to be best in service, she let the cat out the bag. She let Guyanese know that it was not Zulfikar who wanted an investigation. It was the new GMC management through her and the team that wanted an investigation. And Sharon, this is not yesterday. or last year. It is for years that the corruption is at its highest, especially at the Ministry of Agriculture and in several agencies. And if you permit me this morning, I can remind you or remind the viewers and listeners that it is not only at new GMC, I'll get back to the manager's statement, but it is not only at the new GMC that there is corruption, and it is not only now, but you will remember NDIA and all the different projects and the Tupio and the 770 million at A-Line in Region 3. You would remember the Black Belly scandal. You would remember the Gaisuko program of $50 million estimated in damages at the Albion factory, and in completion just a month or so ago, we heard that it is $600 million. You would remember that it is approximately over 30,000 duck eggs that were damaged in that issue that the ministry named some sabotage, allegedly, and an investigation is still ongoing. You'd remember the smuggling of chicken from the quarantine. When the ministry signed off on documents, we provided the number plates, the documents, we provided the vehicles, the police officer that stopped the vehicle that Albion. And when that happened, allegedly the senior officers from the government called to say that the trucks must be released and that the chicken must go to where it is going. You'd remember that at Fort Wellington on the west coast of Barbados, about 3 weeks after that, another truck was stopped, and again the calls were made, and the trucks had to be released.
Release the trucks.
So it is something that is very much widespread, and it is not in isolation, Sherrod, from what is happening across the other ministries and other agencies. I am seeing this as something that everybody is corrupt at the top, and so the boys begin to become corrupt and do just as the big ones are doing. Because you would know that there are houses being built by ministers, allegedly, and that there are apartments being owned by ministers, and that there are certain companies being owned. Coming back to Mrs. Lal's statement, I would want to commend Mrs. Lal as the incoming Minister of Agriculture, because we will unseat Zulfikar from that seat because he is corrupt, and this time, as a matter of fact, I said it before, that Zulfikar should pack his bag and leave. And it is another opportunity that presents itself that I again would call on the Minister of Agriculture to do the honorable thing and resign this time, not for his incompetence alone, but the corruption that are leveled against him and his ministry. And so it is time that he leaves. And I believe that a large majority of the Guyanese population would agree with me, because it is this one ministry you would not even want to talk about. We have not yet talked about MMA. And you would understand the amount of corruption. NDIA, the amount of corruption. GLDA, the level of corruption is so great under this minister. I think that he should resign, do the honorable thing, step down, and let somebody else carry out the few months that are remaining. But Sherrod, the manager, was very clear to point out that it is not the minister. And from what I gather, Sherrod, because we always get the reliable source. Well, permit me, I should say credible source, seems that I'm on the credible source. We normally get the credible source from the inside. And people are saying to us that this is another major cover-up that was about to happen, because the minister was not allowing the manager to properly do what she had to do, and the management team, so to speak. And Sherrod, if you would remember that this ministry, the very goodly permanent secretary had to resign allegedly just a few months ago, or they say it in a way that a contract came to an end. But it is not just that a contract came to an end. The allegations suggest that the minister, again, in his way of wanting to always cover up these corrupt acts that happens under the PPP and his ministry in particular, He wanted the permanent secretary allegedly to sign off on contracts and documents that would have paid contractors millions of dollars. As a matter of fact, MDIA received the largest amount of monies given to the Ministry of Agriculture this year. And that or those money within the infrastructure sector, a lot of corruption is happening. And so the PS, a woman of good standard, a woman who is professional, she said, before I get myself involved in these things, I'm going to just take my leave.
Make a beeline.
And so,
also, yes. Vinceroy, when you look at the statements side by side, the GMC statement is specific. Right? That the issues involve the accountant and the special project managers. When you look at the Ministry of Agriculture statement, first thing they want to blame external people is bench cup, rabble rousing, right. Nothing like that happening here. But the GMC statement drilled down into the problem and seemed to want to excoriate it as against the minister.
And you see, the GMC statement is much more clearer than that of the ministry statement. Because when you look at I think it's the second or third paragraph, I think it is the most foolish statement that I've ever read. Ridiculous in all its ways. Coming from a ministry, and a minister probably seen it before. How can you distance yourself as a minister and ministry head office from an agency that falls directly under your purview, where you have direct policy administration and operational management oversight? How can you distance yourself from the new GMC as if it falls under public infrastructure? It is your agency. The minister has on every level of corruption that happens within any agency under the Ministry of Agriculture. The responsibility lies at the feet of the Minister of Agriculture, because he must then step in and ensure that proper investigations are done. But that is not what he's doing. And so the manager at New GMC, not wanting to be caught in any crossfire and then having to answer as the accounting officer in years to come, he initiated, as she would have rightfully said, with the management team, an investigation. But Sharon, it goes further. And I'm very happy that my good brother Mark Benstrop, of which they try to say that it is not true and all of that. My good brother brought it to light. But you would also know from insiders that many of the persons that are fingered in these mass corruptions, they are persons who are closely affiliated to the People's Progressive Party. They are part of the friends, family, favorites, and there's another flatterers, family.
All the Fs.
They are part and parcel of it, all of the Fs. And so, Sharon, it is one big family
of corruption.
Engaged in corruption, and the ones to the top are doing it so rampant that the smaller boys are saying, look, no, if they can take, we can take too. And we will do too. And what you need to also understand, Sharon, especially the Ministry of Agriculture, is that many of the corrupt acts are acts that are in conjunction with that of instructions and partnership of senior government officials. So don't be fooled. And that is why the constant push and move to cover up is always the first action of the PPP.
MP Jordan,
I know I'm on your program and time, but sometimes you get heated when
MP Jordan, we understand too that being heading into this election cycle, we are hearing a lot about transparency and accountability. These boys would kill you and cry at your funeral. Fight your family to read a eulogy, because it is the Ministry of Agriculture talking about accountability and transparency as the reason why they're overseeing this process, this audit, to ensure fairness and integrity. Why would the ministry lie about being the ones who initially called and implemented this audit? What is that about? It is fascinating. But I guess they got to do something, because big house got a bill in Region 6 and big fancy luxury vehicles don't by themselves, right? Money got for make.
Yes. And you know, Sherrod, it is the usual thing. The lies and the statements that they normally come. Look, I would have been writing and putting statements, some even video form, against that of the corruption and malpractices at the Ministry of Agriculture continuously. And every single time you make a statement, the minister, for the first thing they come out and say, it is not true. Vexatious, malicious, all sorts of crazy words they would use. But then to the end of it, they boil down and then they say, those matters have already been resolved. What nonsense is that? How could it, how it's not going to be true, but it has been resolved? It's typical to the MMA matter. The issues at MMA, they are facts. And because they are facts, and we know of them, but it is just time that we have to gather the evidence, gather what are some of the standout points in it, and then to come to front. Sherrod, millions of dollars over time were paid to a security guard who was supposed to be doing some sort of security work with regards to machines, large excavators and so on, falling under the MMA ADA.
Correct.
And the supervisor responsible for that team of security or the officers that were to do the job kept paying, and that's why I said ghost, kept paying a security officer. As a matter of fact, we were reliably informed that the checks were even cashed before it reached to the person, and the person was never aware. So I am now wanting to understand, and that's why I said these things are criminal. How can I be cashing a check for Sheriff Duncan when he doesn't even see the check? Where is his ID card? Where is his signature?
So there's complicity at a lot of levels here.
Exactly. And so when the MMA comes out to say that they would have dealt with it at the level of management and the board, who at the level of management and the board could tell us about you frauding somebody's signature and cashing a check and at the same time spending the money? Which one of them could have put a proper investigation in place to say what were the criminal or what were the charges given or taken against that officer, and the officer still sits on the job?
Yeah.
That is what is alarming. Sources suggest that there was a quiet settlement between the management and the officer with regards to the millions of dollars. But I am asking for a public report on the matter. We Guyanese must know whether it was 10, 15, or $20 million, or even if it was $1 million. Yeah. Guyanese must know that how it was, how the agency retrieved the money. Guyanese must know what were the charges given or put against the officer. And Guyanese must know the level of misconduct and misappropriation.
That is accountability and transparency you're asking for.
Exactly. And that is where I want the minister to step up and tell us, don't cover these things and sugarcoat it and tell us, but we have dealt with it and actions were it. What are actions? So if we had never brought that to light, Guyanese would have never known. Apart from that, Sherrod, just a few days ago, there was another, and this is just the major ones we are highlighting. Just a few days ago, there was another fraud involving 3 or 4 officers, staff members, one senior, and the allegation level against them is that it's over some $9 million. The finance department could have traced. They could have only traced the 9 million, but there are many other vouchers and other payment stuff that they have to go through so as to trace leading back to 3 years, Sherrod. So if you only got 9 million in the last few weeks, my God help us. How much you gonna find in months and years?
Yeah. As you drill down.
And this has close connections with contractors, allegedly, and what persons who would have been paid for jobs at a different value, persons who would have completed some jobs. And as a matter of fact, the allegation also suggests that there are some who might not have completed anything and monies were paid.
Correct.
Monies were paid.
Correct.
The allegation suggests that there are many of the staff among these ones that are fingered in the allegation, that they have benefited from the products that were procured and the services. So it is corruption to the highest. It is thinking at the Ministry of Agriculture.
So how you have
for that, Sherrod, if you give me a minute or two, we are at the point of understanding that there is even more massive corruption at the surveyors department, at the Mahika Myconia Barry Agricultural Development Authority, MMA, because there's allegations against the surveyors, one of the senior managers who is allegedly involved with a contractor or contractors doing surveyors work with the government machine equipment in Region 6 for all these rope-like canals and everything, and is being paid because the fees and all that is attached. But the MMA ADA resources that are doing it, the vehicles are no longer branded MMA ADA, but they traverse the Barbies River Bridge on a daily basis. They are being, look, Sherrod, it is.
Yeah, I think MP, when the small man at the ministry sees Sue in the living room, handling all the arrangements, and the VP on the government side, right, helping out. Them boys want hustle for themselves too. Them boys want make a bread and eat a food for themselves as well. And that is why we're seeing this massive corruption. As you clearly articulated, not only in the Ministry of Agriculture and what is being uncovered by Tishana Lal at the Marketing Corporation there, but in every ministry and sector in this country, rampant corruption. And we even meet over to house here. Not a story. But we have to leave it there this morning, MP. Final thoughts.
Yes. So Sharon, I would want to say to Guyanese, based on the statement that we saw just within hours ago, within yesterday and last evening, or this morning more so, there is still hope. There is still hope for Guyana and the management and leadership, governance in general of Guyana. And there is still hope in our public servants. And because of the statement that I saw from the manager at GMC, I believe that there are public servants who wants to do good and do better. But I want to also say to Guyanese and beckon to them this morning that we make the right decisions, because we cannot continue with the PPP at the helm and expect changes. And so I said to them, in a very short time, in a few months from now, we'll go to the polls. Let us join hands and hearts together, vote the PPPC out of office, and that's the only way we can fire all of them, get rid of the corruption in total.
Correct.
You know, Sherrod, so I want to thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming by again on such short notice, MP Vinceroy Jordan.